Welcome to Gazora Live with Jason McKenzie and myself, Brett Adams. Jason, I have a very important question for you,
All right, fire away.
and I hope we don't get any kind of copyright strike on this.
Sounds like it
Would you
should be
rather be a
interesting.
dog or would you rather be a cat? You have to think about important things like that.
That's tough. That is really tough because I I am not an animal person anymore. I used to be, but I'm not an animal person as much as I used to be. So would I rather be a
So when
dog
you're
or
an animal person, does that mean like you used to have like ears and a tail and all that kind of stuff, or
No,
like
no,
like
I'm
what?
not from California. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, not that kind of an animal person. No, I growing up, I had we had pets, we had horses, we had sheep, cats, dogs, chickens, loved the horses, really loved the dogs, tolerated the cats, but now that I'm all old, I prefer having cats to dogs around because the cats will go eat the mice. So they're actually doing something, whereas the dog that we had around would simply eat my sprinklers and eat the wiring for the AC unit and would eat the kids' shoes if they left them out there. So the cats definitely are more functional. But if I had to choose what I would be, it would probably be a dog because they don't ever have to do anything. There's no expectations. They can do anything anytime and everyone's okay with it. And yeah, I think a dog.
That's fair. That's fair. Good analogy. Well, let's get right into it. I've got an email here from Mark.
Okay.
He says, "Hey, I've been listening to some of your guys' stuff and figured I'd send this in because I'm pretty stuck right now. I've been running my plumbing business for a few years and we've gotten to around 600K. I'm assuming that's annual revenue.
Okay.
But it feels like we've just hit a wall. We stay busy, sometimes even booked out a couple of weeks, but it's not really growing past that. My first
Oh,
thought
that's really crappy. Sorry.
My first thought is that we need more leads. When things slow down even a little, it stresses me out because payroll is always there. So I've been thinking about putting more into ads and maybe bringing on another guy so we can handle more volume.
Did Mark say where he's from?
Um, he looks like he's from northern Utah.
Northern Utah. Oh, okay. They have plumbing in northern Utah. That's good to know.
Yes.
Okay.
And so he goes on, he says, the issue is everything still kind of runs through me. Sounds like he knows what his issue is. My guys are good, but they still call me a lot during the day with questions or if something changes on a job. I'm also the one doing most of the estimates and handling anything that gets complicated. Some days it feels like I'm just running from one thing to the next, putting out fires. I don't mind working hard, but I thought at this point it would feel more stable. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if I just need to push harder on marketing and hiring or if I'm missing something bigger.
So they're stuck. He thinks he needs more leads. He says that the guys keep calling him, and he's primarily responsible for finding new leads and closing those deals as well. Is that the summary?
Summary sounds like he's doing everything, yeah.
And he's from northern Utah. All right. Well, there's Mark. So what should we do about Mark?
Well, I got some more stats here.
Oh, okay.
So, like I said, he's doing about 600,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
He has 2 full-time plumbers and a part-time admin that's trying to help him. He's got he's trying to estimate bigger jobs,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of new construction, some remodel, and he's still in the field most days. Let's see, he's had inconsistent success with Google Ads, reviews, and mailers.
Boy, this guy didn't write you a letter. He wrote you a book.
Well, there's a form to go with it when they ask a question. So he says he's currently booked out 1 to 2 weeks, but that's not always typical.
Mm-hmm.
He says what breaks first is scheduling communication when they start to get booked out, and if he disappeared, things completely almost stopped. He makes all the decisions. He does all the approvals, and people come to him for pricing, job issues, and decisions. And they are profitable, but not as much as they'd like. Of course, who wouldn't say that? And does struggle with cash flow. And he thinks he needs more leads and maybe another tech.
Wow.
So the question is, what does he need to get unstuck? What do we think he really needs? We're probably going to have to read into this because he's not here for us to ask questions live. But
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Yeah, we'll have to make some assumptions, but there's more than enough data there to already start to assess some of the situations and some of the problems that this guy's got. And I didn't hear any indication that he doesn't have enough leads, except for he said that.
yeah, I got that as well.
Like there's no indication that that's truly his issue that he's got. What the real issue is he said that everything grinds to a halt when he's gone.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is typical contractor hell.
Mhm.
When he doesn't have much work, he's going out, pushing, getting more work. And then when he has it, then he's so busy scheduling and managing and trying to get all the work done that he doesn't line anything else up. And so then their opportunities drop off, and then he's got to go out, and he's just in this constant perpetual cycle,
It's
which is
this up and down. Yep.
common to
And
most contractors.
and what's interesting is the work cycle goes up and then down, and just beyond that is the amount of cash they have. So
Hmm.
they're riding very much in parallel, I would guess, up and down with a
Assuming their
little
customers pay
space
on
in
time.
between the two. Yep. So they get a little money in, start doing the job, finish the job, get some more money, then it goes down and up and down. And he did mention that cash flow is an issue for the business. So that would indicate that they're not consistent in their efforts to acquire leads, follow up with leads, manage the leads, and close the leads. They're just taking that when they need it and then filling the pipeline, shoving it chuck full, and then
So
letting
what
it
you're
die again.
saying, what I heard you say is consistency. It's not that he doesn't have enough leads; it's that he doesn't consistently work the opportunities that he has in order to keep their production steady.
Well, I would say that that's not the only problem. It's not just a consistency problem because there's one more layer that causes the inconsistency. And that problem is Mark, right? It's Mark.
Mark, yep.
Yeah, Mark's got a salesman hat on. He's got sounds like the financial operations of the hat on. He's got his I'm the expert hat on. The whole team comes to him whenever there's a problem. He's got the lead generator hat. And anyone that's trying to wear that many hats, it's a real struggle to be able to have a system in place that allows them to seamlessly put hats on and off throughout the day, each and every day, to be able to do the job. So it's not a matter of inconsistency as much as it is he doesn't have a good way of wearing those hats, which leads to the inconsistency. So he needs to figure out which hats should he be wearing when. Should he be taking hats off and putting them on other people's heads? Does he have the ability to do that? And if not, why doesn't he have the ability to do that? And when will he have the ability to do that? So he needs to get a bit of a roadmap built, figure out how can I start offloading these? What are the metrics that say it's time to offload these? And which one do I offload first to someone else? That would be where I'd start out. Even though he says his real issue is cash flow and not enough leads, his real issue, when you get down below it all, too many hats.
Too many hats. Yeah. Well, and that's why we've been talking about the replacement ladder. He says he has a part-time admin, but if he's still involved in scheduling, that's a very clear sign that his admin isn't doing very much
Or doing the wrong things.
or doing the wrong things. So he hasn't leveraged the people that he already has, or or they're not capable of doing the work, or he doesn't know how to train them, or something. But he needs to be able to pass off some of those more menial tasks first, so he can get at least one of those hats off his head permanently.
Yep, absolutely. So if you were Mark, Which hat would you be trying to take off? Would you be taking off the scheduling? Would you be taking off the lead gen? Would you be taking off proposals, closing the deals? Which ones of those hats do you think would be his best hat to take off and put on the head of one of his employees?
I would take the scheduling off. I would create
Mhm.
a system for consistency because I know one thing as a business owner, when I'm involved in operations, it's really hard for me to follow my own processes. Like as much as I believe in processes and know that they're they're the thing that every business needs, I because I am the owner, I have the authority to undercut myself and skip all the steps just to try and get something done immediately instead which only kicks the problem down the road.
Right.
And and so getting himself out of scheduling will give more consistency to his people and more consistency to his own schedule. Like that's one of the key roles that an admin should be managing his calendar
So you're
and
not
his
talking
inbox.
about just scheduling the 2 employees. You're
No.
talking about scheduling the 2 employees because they're out doing the actual factory work, if you will, of actually
Mhm.
producing the goods or services that make money. So there's that side of scheduling the jobs, but then you're also saying scheduling his calendar for the
Absolutely, yeah.
owner. Mhm.
Yeah, it's the job of the admin to help make sure that the whoever they're the assistant to is as productive as possible, that they're staying in their production quadrant and they're not doing things that aren't the higher value activities for the business. It's
Mhm.
their job to protect them. So I would suspect that um, it's likely a training issue that Mark has no idea how to teach his assistant to actually help him to be more effective. Because
Mm.
what's the point of having an assistant if it doesn't make you more effective? I mean, we have like you've played Gopher before when you were younger growing up. Like
Oh,
like
yes.
and you know what it's like to work on something where and you have to like you're trying to hold something together and then you need this tool and like it's like and then you have to go grab it if you're by yourself. Whereas you have a gopher, it makes you that much more productive, that much faster. And I use that visceral example because it helps us to abstract. It's the same kind of thing. When you're trying to hold the business together, if you've got to go over and grab the tool that you left over there instead of having somebody bring it to you, it makes everything take longer.
Yep.
And so if he can get his admin to actually take over his calendar completely, take over his inbox completely, and manage the scheduling and potentially even follow up with customers just to make sure that jobs are ready and and do those kinds of things, then he can be free to focus on handling the financial situation, making sure that he's continuing to bid jobs and manage those relationships with customers because it sounds like he's already figured out he's got people who can do most of the work
Yeah.
in it sounds like 80% of the situations, which if he can just get that admin hat off, he'll have abundant time to keep training them so that they don't um, bring as many situations to him as well, which will then unlock even more time.
Going back for just a minute to that idea of me being the gopher, I wanna speak to that a little bit because there is a real analogy between an admin and the job I had. I was working for a roofer, and the roofer explained to me the theory of constraints in normal layman's terms. He said, "Your job is to make sure I never have to stop working or slow down." And so it was my job to figure out what's going to slow him down, and I had to know that before he ran into that problem, and I had to solve that problem for him so that he could run at maximum speed. So I'd be running across the roof grabbing nails, and he'd lift his hand up, and I'd put the nails right in his hand, and he'd put them in the gun and keep going. I'd have the shingles laid out for him. I had to know when he was getting thirsty so I could get him some water, so he'd and back to work, and I'd take the water away. That was my job, and an admin is very similar to that in that an admin's watching the boss saying, okay, well, the boss usually does all these things. Okay, I'm going to put this right here for him. I'm going to do this for him. I'm going to schedule this for him. And it has to have the cognitive abilities, if they're a good admin, to know what's going to slow the boss down so that they can remove those barriers from the boss so the boss keeps running.
Yep. That's exactly right. I grew up as a teenager doing the exact same thing when I was helping in construction. It was the very same thing. It's like, what is the boss going to need? What's going to be in their way, and how do I get it out of their way so they can keep that production going? When it comes to like when it came to my fabrication businesses, it was pretty obvious once we got real systems established and we started getting that flow. We had, I think, 15 different welding machines at one of our facilities. Looking at the numbers, if we could keep one machine operating at 80% of the time, we're talking, and we typically only ran 40-hour weeks. We didn't do the night shifts and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So we're talking 30 to 35 hours a week,
Yep.
one machine running continuously for 30 to 35 hours a week. That was all the production that we had.
All the production you had.
That arc would have handled all of our production if we could
So
keep a
you're
single.
saying you literally could have put 14 machines in the storage,
Mhm.
and one machine working 30 hours a week would have done all of the work that was coming into the factory.
Yeah. Well, it's like you say, like if the boss, his job is to put the nails in the shingles with the
Yep.
shingles in the right place. If you've got the shingles laid out, if he never has to look for nails, if he never has to do anything, like his arc was that nail gun
Yep.
as fast as he could go. And so for this it was like, and so when we had that realization, it helped us focus even more. It's like, okay, well, what is in the way of a welder keeping an arc lit? Like, what keeps them from having that trigger pulled all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And so then you start to look like, what is in the way? So for Mark in this situation, what is the thing that keeps him from just scheduling more jobs? That might be his arc, the equivalent. Like, he just needs to be able to keep scheduling jobs. He needs to figure out how to get his company scheduled out 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks consistently, because then that can give him the confidence to bring more people on. Hey, we're scheduled 6 weeks out. I got $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in revenue that's booked already. I can I can afford to bring more people on. Like, then you can take the time to look at cash flow. Then you can take the time to make those kinds of plans.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
that's important to identify is as he starts scaling that one thing up, the arc time in your analogy no longer becomes the bottleneck, and people can build past the bottleneck point because they become obsessed with it. And so Mark may get jobs lined out for 6 weeks, but if he doesn't take care of his cash flow problem and he doesn't take care of accounts receivable to make sure they're receiving money in a timely manner and make sure that they're paying money in a timely manner, he may run out of cash and go negative on cash. And that may become his new bottleneck because he doesn't have the ability to procure the supplies he needs because he didn't watch what else was creeping up as the new problem once he took care of the initial one. So it's
yes,
kind of
but
like a glorified a game of whack-a-mole.
it can feel that way. But that's where theory of constraints really comes in. Once you've started to use it and apply it in your business, then you go from looking for the constraint to picking the constraint, and you select it and you say, this is going to be my business constraint, which by definition means everything else has to run at more capacity. The bottlenecks have to be bigger on everything else except for the thing you pick as your constraint. And then you can control the growth of your business by that one constraint. And the game of whack-a-mole, it doesn't feel like a game of whack-a-mole. Or if it is, you have essentially as much time as you want to whack each mole. It's not a
It's very
critical timing.
different than putting out
Yeah.
fires. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good call out that when you're playing the game the right way, you are smashing problem after problem after problem in your business, but each one gives you more traction, more momentum, and more speed instead of just a new fire that's crushing your business over and over.
Well, but then your mentality also shifts because instead of saying, "Oh, there's a problem over here. There's a fire I have to put out over here," it's, "What's my next opportunity? Oh, well, there it
Mhm.
is right there." And
Yeah.
then instead of running to put out a problem, you're running to take advantage of an opportunity.
Yep.
And that mindset shift is a huge amount of freedom. Like you might be doing the exact same things from an outside perspective, but the way that you feel internally is completely different.
Yeah, I did some research on the idea of stress, and the animal that is being chased feels a great deal of stress. The animal doing the chasing feels very similar things, but the chaser is in a positive state. The chasee getting chased is in this terrible, terrible state. So when you flip from being chased to doing the chasing, you may still have some of those same feelings, some of those same things going on, but it's all coming from a positive opportunity state instead of a threat state. And the body feels different, the mind feels different, emotions are different, everything shifts because of that change.
Well, and it's not just the way that you feel, the creativity that you can bring to solving those problems when you're the, as you say, the chaser, when you're the hunter instead of the hunted, you're able to really solve complex issues that you wouldn't even attempt to solve if all you're doing is running from fire to fire to fire.
Yep.
And anyway, so I think that was great. Let's let's
Thanks,
go
Mark, for
to
having
the
problems so we could talk about you.
right. Okay. Well, I have one more aspect to this that from the framework that we're ripping off to do our. Let's see, where is it? Okay. All right. Here's my rough attempt at doing the puzzler.
Okay.
And I listened to a couple puzzlers, and this is going to take some work, but we're going to try it.
Mhm.
And so you've got your business going, and you've got a small team, and you're driving along, and everything's
Figuratively or literally?
figuratively,
Okay, okay.
but I had to use driving because of the
Sure.
source. And so everything's driving along, and it's fast, and you've got this employee who's fast, reliable, and just handles everything.
Hmm.
And so you've got this choice. Do you start routing more and more work to them or not?
Ooh. So there's an employee
Mhm,
working in the company,
yep,
doing great, killing it,
mhm,
and the question is, do we route more and more work to them or not?
yes.
Hmm. And am I answering this today or next time?
Today.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Then
still have, like,
I
5 minutes at least.
I would say if I were to pick, I would say, is it more of the same work or different?
Well, that's a good question. It's different. He's looking
Then
f he's got the work that he does, he's got handled, he's got excess capacity, and he's looking for opportunities.
hmm. So if the work relates to the
Or she.
area of specialty that they're in, then it would make sense. But oftentimes, one of the things that happens is people take their prized employee that's really good at sales, for example, and moves them to management. And pretty soon, that one thing that they're just pounding out the nails all day long on the shingles, and now they're not doing that anymore. And now they're watching everyone else pound out nails, and they get miserable, and productivity goes down for them, and they aren't in their zone. And when they're not in their zone, they go from being excellent to being maybe
Well,
mediocre.
you've just identified one of the biggest problems in modern corporate America. It's something that so many managers don't even realize. It's that competency in doing a job is not the same as competency in managing other people doing that job.
Hmm.
They're fundamentally different things, and for some people, they're completely opposed.
But not only that, but that person has a really good competency at one. It may not even be moving them to management. It may be that before his job was pounding the nails in, and then we're going to say, hey, there's there's 2 minutes where you're not pounding nails. I want you to be cutting shingles when you're not pounding. And maybe he's terrible at cutting shingles, and every time he cuts, he veers to the right, and now all the shingles are garbage because we pushed him into an area that wasn't his expertise. So it can work, maybe, but it depends on if they're good at that job too.
Well, another answer, and I think one of the things about these puzzles is there can be multiple answers to them depending on
Right?
how they're looked at.
Yeah.
Another thing is just because an employee has more capacity, if they're filling the need that you have for them, if they are a worthwhile employee, meaning you're getting a good return on your investment in them, do you need to optimize every last drop of their time?
That's another great way to look at it.
And does doing so degrade the core work that you brought them on, or that they're doing for you in the first place?
Right.
And I look at it like this: like if I have a line of production equipment, and I have one machine that can produce 100 widgets an hour, and the next machine can produce 13 widgets an hour, and the next machine after that can produce 30 widgets an hour, and they've all got to go in order. The first machine, I'm only going to run at 13 widgets an hour.
Or you could batch and do 100 widgets, and then it's going to sit idle for a really long time while
Right.
they catch up to it.
But I mean, when it comes to machines, yes, you can potentially have those choices, but people aren't machines.
Yeah.
And so I may not want them to do much of anything else unless they truly are seeking for a way to advance.
Hmm.
And so sometimes I think one issue that owners can get into is they can see an employee and see them sitting idle and think that they're wasting time or that they're not truly being productive without looking deeper. It's like, what is the productivity that they bring? And are they bringing value? And is it okay if in a 40-hour week they sit idle 6 or 7 hours or even more time? Like is it, like, do you want to derail the good that they're doing because you're trying for efficiency? And which
Right.
is where then we can get into a Drucker quote where, you know, and the distinction between efficiency and effectiveness. But I think we might be better off saving that for another time.
Probably. We're about out of time today.
So anyway, what's your evaluation? How do we do?
I like it. And I think that especially that's a great call out to say maybe it's okay that people are not working every single moment as well. It's a different way of thinking.
Well, and I mean, especially for you, the owner, like there is a need for our bodies and minds to step back and reset.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Awesome.
that's all I got.
That's the show. Thanks everybody for watching. Tune in again next week.
Thanks.